Welcome to the Pitmaster Podcast. We're barbecue competition competitors that aim to share information, advice, tips, and tall tales about our favorite pastime. Head over to the pitmasterpodcast.com for all things Pitmasters, or follow us on your favorite social media platform. And now, here are the hosts of the Pitmaster Podcast, the two-time grand champion, SCA World Champion finalist, and barbecue specialist of Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue, the Anthony Lujan, and the 24-time grand and reserve grand champion, reserve world grand champion, Vanover High Roller champion, and the founder of Pitmaster Barbecue Supply Company stores in Utah, the old man himself from Big Johnson's Barbecue, Jesse Johnson.
This is Greg Rempe from the Barbecue Central Show, and you are listening to the Pitmasters Podcast, and they are doing it live.
We'll do it live.
That's right, Bill. I just said that. They're going to do it live.
We'll do it live.
Yes, live. They're going to do it live.
Happy Sunday, Pitmasters. How's everybody doing today? Well, Jesse, we're going to have a couple guests on today. We have Christie Vanover, and then the voice of the intro, Greg Rempe, today talking about wireless thermometers. I'm a little biased on this topic, so that's why I brought them in, so we can discuss other wireless thermometers. So that's what's going on the show today. What's new in your world, Jesse? We opened a new store in Salt Lake.
New store opening up. We just got through Hooper Tomato Days, so that was a fun contest. Then we got another contest towards the end of the month at our Layton Pitmaster store, and then we're trying to schedule something down at the new store. They've got a great parking lot to have some comps at, so it should be fun. But,
Yeah, shout out to, what is it, 5XL barbecue?
Oh, yeah.
Dude?
5XL won the competition at Hooper Tomato Days. They got a perfect score in ribs, which, you know, how many perfect scores in ribs do you have?
0.
Gotcha.
Ribs, they really struggle on.
I've got 2 of them, but yeah, congratulations out to Cole, Tractor, and Mikey. They had a good day. So
Yeah, but then
they've been working hard though. They're practicing a ton, and that's what it takes to have success in either backyard or pro barbecue or SCA.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then shout out to Surefire Barbecue for taking the reserve on that.
Reserve grand, yeah. Scotty did a good job. He always does.
Yep. And then also, I just wanted to let people know that Christie Vanover's on here. She has this competition. We might talk about that just a little bit on how the hell she filled up a competition of 76 teams in 48 hours.
Yeah.
That's
and all of them paid.
Yeah, paid. Yeah, that's another thing. Most people will sign up and then pay 3 days before the event, but it's all confirmed and everything. So, but there's not much news other than telling people to sign up for the chili cook-off if you're out here west in Utah. And then there's some competitions. You got Colorado going on next weekend. There's a one up in Hayward, California, SCA. Not much for KCBS out west. And people back east, if you have a competition, just let us know. I really don't follow those too much because I don't go back east to cook. So just send us messages so we can let you know about the comps. So let's just get into this. Let's just go right into the show and talk about some wireless thermometers.
Let's get smoking.
We call it Thermapen 1, the first true 1-second cooking thermometer. Its unprecedented speed means Thermapen 1's responsiveness approaches the speed of thought. Because when you're plating the perfect menu or smoking the perfect side of barbecue, you don't have time to think about how your instant read thermometer is accurate to 0.5 degrees in 1 second or less, or how rugged and waterproof it is, or how big, elegant, and bright the backlit display is. You'll just know it works, because our perfection powers your perfection. Seek perfection with Thermapen 1.
Hey, Greg and Christy, how are you today?
Great. How are you?
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man, I'm a little nervous here, Greg, because you've been doing this live stuff for so many years and you have it done flawlessly, and you've introduced your daughter to how to do this. So I'm kind of nervous on making sure this flows correctly.
If it starts to go sideways, I'll just take it over.
Perfect. Please do. Well, let's just do quick introductions. Christy, go ahead and let people know who you are if they already don't know who you are.
Hey guys, I am Christie Vanover. I'm the owner of Girls Can Grill, a competitive pit master, and basically share lots of information on my website, girlscangrill.com, and also run the Barbecue Tips podcast.
And
Greg.
I'm Greg Rempe, host of the Barbecue Central show. I've been doing it live since February 7th, 2008. It was a podcast 2 years before that. And it's the ESPN of the barbecue and grilling industry. I've had Christie on a small handful of times over the years. I've had the Anthony Lujan at least once. So it's kind of covering anything that has to do with live fire, whether it's live, local, late breaking, or something from a news cycle standpoint that continues on. And you can find me every Tuesday night live 9 to 11 on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, or you can just subscribe to the podcast feed.
Sweet. So let's just get right into this. I invited you guys on because I'm super biased, obviously, to wireless thermometers, to one in particular, the RFX system. But Christie's used it. Greg's has a little bit of introduction to it. But then also, I know Christie and Greg have talked to multiple people who've used multiple products. Let's just get into it about their technology. Let's start off. Let's hit the rewind button. There's been a couple of companies out there that started this. Meter was the big name that really got onto it, and then a couple other ones. What's your guys' experience from the start to now and the technology? Go ahead, fire away, either one of you.
I'm happy to start. I actually have one of my meters here. It's been in the drawer for almost ever since I bought it, honestly, I'm afraid to say. I loved the idea of a wireless thermometer, and I was really excited about this one. It faced a lot of challenges with connectivity. As soon as I would close my grill lids, it disconnected, or if I walked to another location, it just wouldn't hold the strength to connect to my phone. They threw out lots of options. I mean, I talked directly with the company in hopes of finding a fix. Or these are the very, very early days, like right after their Kickstarter campaign. And some of the early solutions were put a phone by your grill or put an iPad by your grill and use that as kind of a receiver to keep the signal there and then bounce that signal to your phone inside your house. And, it gets to 120 degrees in Vegas. I'm not keeping an iPhone outside by a hot grill. So just had lots of obstacles with that. And then I really didn't jump into any other wireless thermometers personally after that, because soon after that, I became a diehard ThermoWorks fan. It's just their instruments are so precise, and I just have always loved them. So I've been waiting a couple years. ThermoWorks talked about the fact that they were kind of in the beginning stages of developing one, but when I asked about it, they said we're not going to come out with one until it actually works. And so it took a little while, and fast forward to today, and now we are at the RFX stage, which I'm beta testing this model right now. So that's basically been my experience. Hoping the meter would work out, being a little bit disappointed, and just kind of keeping it in the drawer and until today.
I remember covering the meter when it was being trotted around in the crowdfunding stage, and tracking that for well over a year put a bad taste in my mouth, because they garnered millions and millions of dollars off the back of people that were ready to fund this, and it took forever to get to market and actually have something to send to people, only to be doubled up with the fact that, as Christie said, was kind of a piece of crap. So that's not a great way to enter into the game. Now, since Traeger has purchased them, I'm still a little disappointed in them just kind of taking it under the hood and then not either rebranding or doing Traeger things to it to make it a little bit more appealing. I've heard from a number of people that the connectivity is a little bit better, but I think it continually is a bit of a hurdle for them to get over. Just for high level sake here, I own 0 wireless thermometers. I've just never, maybe it's when I got into the whole barbecue thing. I always like to kind of be around. I don't do a lot of rotisserie stuff, so I don't worry about wires getting twirled around the spit and then snapped off. So I'm a big Fireboard fan. They're a sponsor of my show. They also have a wireless thermometer that is recently just rolling out. So I'm excited for that because I know them. I was excited to go to the ThermoWorks event a month and a half, 2 months ago to see what they're bringing to the market. But I've just never been into wireless thermometers per se, and I've never found a wire to be terribly inconvenient when I'm using it in any pellet cooker that I have or in my Primo or whatever. So it's never been a big deal to me regardless, but tracking the industry and tracking where it appears the buyer wants or what the buyer wants. Yeah, I mean, they appear to want wireless thermometers, and the three that seem to be in the lead at this point, or at least they're showing the most promise, are going to be the ThermoWorks, the Fireboard, and then the Combustion Inc. version that Chris Young puts out there. So, Meter, the biggest name, but I'm not sure where that's going to be in the future. So, I'm not a huge fan because I don't own any, but I'm certainly not against it.
Right. And Greg, that's why you're here, is because you have the knowledge behind it. You have the experience of, talking to people about this throughout the years. But since you brought up Fireboard, what is Fireboard bringing to the table?
So I think a lot of it is similar to what the RFX is in many ways. There's obviously differences. So the Fireboard does have the additional, let's call it the ambient portion on the far end of where the sensors are. And they do agree. So ThermoWorks says, look, we don't put one on the end because you got a cold piece of meat there. You're not going to get the right or the most accurate temperature readings probably until much later in the cook anyway. And a lot of people are using a draft fan anyway, so they're dialing in there to do you really need the ambient temperature? I mean, that's a whole other podcast we could probably get into. So I think Fireboard put it on there because, again, this is more of what a consumer might want versus what they feel really needs to be on there. I'm not sure where the heat drop off is for that. Like if it's the ThermoWorks one, 1,000 degrees or something like. I mean, it's very up there. So I think it's competitive in a lot of ways. The thing that I'm closely aligning to both of those is they're being sold immediately with a gateway of some sort. So this is the product that sits on the outside of the grill. It connects to your Wi-Fi. And now if you have the app, you can go wherever you want. To me, that's where the most value is. I want to be able to connect and I want to be able to go wherever the hell I want to go and not be tethered. I don't want to have to be within 8 feet of the grill or less when you close the lid and possibly lose connect. I mean, the minute that thing loses connectivity, it's a piece of crap. So it's only worthless and you've just thrown your money out. So I think them waiting, I had been on Ted Conrad from Fireboard for years going, everybody else is coming to the market with a wireless thermometer. He's like, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. It's this, it's that. It's not going to be cheap to replace if it breaks. And all this technology has got to go in that little tube. A lot of the same stuff that ThermoWorks was saying. So to see them both entering in the market at this point, leads me to believe they've done enough research. They feel confident enough to bring something out that isn't going to fall to the wayside or have the same issues like some of these other ones have. And so I think price point is similar with Fireboard and what the ThermoWorks product is. But that's the biggest issue. And I think there's two sensors at the sticking in the meat versus 4 that the ThermoWorks has. But if I'm buying, I'm looking at either Fireboard or ThermoWorks.
Right. And then Jesse, how do you see this wireless system in the competitive world? Do you think it's going to be beneficial? Do you think it's just kind of, something that an at-home user would use more than a competitive cook? What do you
I think
the
cool factor is for the at-home user. Pitmasters that are cooking competitive barbecue, they have their systems down. They're using the products that they trust and that they know are reliable. I mean, I like Christie and them said, when they first came out with the meter, I was excited about it, but they sat on the top of my fridge for how many years before they came out with something that worked a little better. And having a big rotisserie smoker like an old Hickory, knowing that ambient temperature close to the meat, sometimes the digital dial's off a hair, and it was actually really nice to be able to know that when the new meters came out. And now they got the Meter 2 as well, and the new Meter 2 block. But we've been carrying those in the stores. But we also have a huge order in with ThermoWorks. I can't wait to see it. Hope they said September, so we're chomping at the bit to get that in the store because we've been talking about them so much on the podcast and then talking about it with our customers in the stores. It's going to be exciting to be able to run one gateway and as many probes as you want to run off it. It should be awesome. So, but I think competitors are going to have their own way. I think for the SCA folks, I haven't actually physically held one, so I don't know how thick they are. It could be a game changer for some of those SCA folks.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to kind of disagree with you on that a little bit, Jesse. Just the principle is because you brought up the point of you can have up to 50 probes with the ThermoWorks system on that. If you get your gateway connected to your phone, it will transmit Bluetooth. You're not going to have the range. We know Bluetooth range is very limited. You know that with your speakers, you know everything like that. You maybe get 90 feet, but I think in the KCBS style cook, you can put a probe you can put one in your flat, you can put one in your burn ends, your money muscle, you can put them all in these different cuts as you're cooking, and you'll be able to get that all in one unit. I think it's going to be more beneficial. You're not going to have to deal with all the wires and all that stuff that we are at today. So I think on the competition side, it's going to be nice because you are going to be able to have that Bluetooth connectivity. And then if you never know, there might be somebody, Christie, just throwing this out there. If you could tie everybody into a Wi-Fi network, that'd be amazing at your comps. And then it could really expand.
That's true. You really just need one gateway and everybody just shares it up.
Really, it is. You have one gateway at a competition, and people can share it, and then they network off each other as well. So I think it could be a game changer.
I will say from a competitive standpoint, I see the advantages in SCA because one of the reasons I like wireless is because when you're flipping meat, not necessarily rotisserie, but flipping steaks, and with an SCA, you're flipping it at least 4 times. So the wires can definitely get in the way and get twisted. And if you twist a wire wrong, it can kind of stop working. So I like it for the steaks. It is still a little thick, but not as thick as the meter. But I'm most excited about it actually for KCBS. And definitely now I'm just cooking money muscles. I'm not even cooking like the full butt and stuff anymore. So having like 4 or 5 wires in with all my money muscles just gets kind of messy. So being able to put this right in there with the monies, I'm looking forward to competing with it for that reason.
Well, just in case you want to know, since you brought up SCA, there is a video on ThermoWorks now that came out Saturday about me cooking an SCA with it.
Nice.
I actually cooked an SCA with it 2 weeks ago and took second place with that. So it's a game changer because you don't have to worry about it. Literally, I trimmed my steak, tied it, and then inserted the probe, and then went through the whole tenderizing process. I put the rub on, cooked it, let it come up to temperature at the end, and they took it out. So it's really nice that you can put it in, kind of the set it in and forget it type scenario, right? So it works out great for that.
One thing I wanted to mention too, that people may not know about is that the RFX comes with a wired thermometer that connects to the side of the gateway for your ambient temperature. So this wouldn't necessarily work for what Jesse was talking about with a big rotisserie smoker, because you're not going to want that wire, going through the big rotisserie. But for just cooking on, my drums or a pellet grill or something, you don't need a wireless thermometer for, just your ambient temperature. So you're still going to get the ambient reading, but it's going to be a lot more accurate because it's not next to that cold piece of meat.
Right. And Greg, is for Fireboard, do they have an ambient probe system too that you can plug in as well, right? If you needed to go that route.
Yeah, if you're going to be basing it off one of the Fireboard main modules, then you can put an ambient probe in there, and then so you can, if you're using a regular Fireboard, it's like up to 6 wired probes, and that can be a host of internal or ambient probes. And then with the Pulse, so the thing that I like a lot about both the Fireboard and the ThermoWorks is they both believe going forward that either or, they're building ecosystems here. So you can add, up to 50 therms for ThermoWorks, and I believe it's a similar or even a higher number for Fireboard. So you have opportunity to grow, but then it's also with new products that are coming out that might not necessarily have anything to do with the wireless thermometer. You can add all of these into the same ecosystem, and they're all going to work, and they're all going to be able to talk to each other. And you can see humidity in your cigar humidor with a Fireboard beacon, and you have a cold deep freeze out in your backyard, and you can put a beacon out there and see what the temperature is, because you have the sub 1 gigahertz technology that they use. And then you're cooking a brisket and you have 7 different wireless probes in there, and you're getting all that information as well. So you can grow within this system that they're building for both companies, which I think, to me, is helping them lead this whole wireless thermometer. It's bringing the most value to the market today.
Right. And with that comment there too, Travis Bates says one hurdle to wireless is the investment of new technology. A lot of people are already heavily invested in wired technology.
Mhm.
Do you see that a problem as a consumer, of like, are we just all going to throw away our wireless systems to go straight into the wireless systems? Is it financially going to be the right move for companies to do?
Look, I think if we're talking about business, nobody likes business more than me. If you already have a wireless setup, it's obviously going to be harder for you to give that up because as the comment said, you've already invested money into it. But if you're buying into whatever perceived value of the wireless system can bring you, go to Facebook Marketplace, sell that thing, take the money, and then you can buy a new wireless setup. By the way, it's really not that expensive when you're looking at it. I mean, you're all in. What's the cost of a thermometer, Anthony, from ThermoWorks?
109 for an instant read.
Yeah. So, I mean, is it money? Yes. Can you offset the initial buy back into wireless by selling your wired stuff if you really want to get into wireless? Yes. So it's not thousands and thousands of dollars. Like if you were going to go from a Ryder DLX pellet grill to a Jambo pit because you want to be a real pit master, by golly, that's a big deal. But this isn't that big of a deal. So if you buy into the wireless mindset, then it's pretty easy to overcome that gap.
I agree 100% too. And what we talk about all the time at ThermoWorks is what's the $109 for an instant read? You're spending $130 on a brisket that you're to fuck up because you
Or
didn't.
more.
Yeah, that you
Right.
didn't use any thermometers on. So
Yeah.
the investment is huge, and we've talked about this for many years. Everybody's talked about it. Get a thermometer. Try not to go cheap. Spend. There's leading companies out there. Go with those guys to just make sure that you're not messing up your meats that you've already invested in. And then, like you kind of said too, Greg, with these adapters that you can put on these wireless systems, also going to protect your meat before you cook it. You put one in a fridge. You don't. That's the worst thing is going on vacation and know that your fridge went out, right? Where you could maybe
Yep.
have your neighbor that's watching your house can react. So I think that's huge as well.
Yeah. I'm curious with the Fireboard, since I know the RFX uses the radio frequency as opposed to straight Bluetooth or your wireless network. What is the Fireboard using? Do you know, Greg?
They use they call it sub 1G or the sub 1 gigahertz, which I believe
Okay.
I believe there's some kind of similarity that the ThermoWorks one uses. I know they're lower on the
Okay.
gigahertz scale. So I think like the regular Bluetooth is at 2.5 gigahertz or whatever it is. So the sub 1G gives you considerably more range and can also permeate through cement blocks and walls and
Nice.
all that, much bigger than the Bluetooth connection can be. So,
Nice.
line of sight for sub 1G substantially more. Of course, that lessens just like it does on the ThermoWorks product when you start throwing walls up, but considerably larger range using that kind of technology than you're going to get with standard Bluetooth, which is, as soon as you start throwing up walls, it's pretty bad.
Yeah, I know Ninja Kitchen just actually launched a wireless thermometer too, which it's funny because it's like the time of wireless thermometers. I haven't tested theirs at all. I do work with them on their grill products, but theirs is Bluetooth, according to the website, which shows about 165-foot range. Again, that's probably no walls, no grill closures and stuff. So it's only $89.99. I don't know. I haven't tested it, but I have tested the RFX. I have closed the grill. I've walked to my neighbor's house and still have connectivity. So far that's compared to my meter, that just won right there. Because like you said before, if it doesn't work when you close your lid, then you basically don't have a thermometer. And with the RFX, it's been working for me.
Right. And then another thing that people don't realize is, with this range that people say, it's kind of in a quote, right? It depends on your scenario. If you're living out there in, say, Montana, and you don't have any neighbors, you're on 200 acres of property, you're going to get a lot more range than somebody that's going to be in downtown New York with all the radio frequencies. It does get affected by that. And I don't think a lot of people realize, well, the box says this, but yes, there's radio frequency in higher neighborhoods and everything like that with more Wi-Fi and all that.
Manufacturers are always going to tell you utopian conditions and results.
Mhm.
So during the day, I sell Peterbilt trucks. We have electric tractors that will pull trailers. So, I mean, this is a totally different podcast that we could get into, but the range for the tractor that we sell, which is a tandem axle day cab, is 135 miles. Well, that's utopian conditions. I live in
Right.
Cleveland, or what about in the Northeast when it's 30 below? How does that affect the batteries? What does that do to range? You know, all these other things. So whenever you're reading anything on a box, it's the manufacturer's utopian conditions, and that's something that you need to take into account. It's not just, oh, well, it says this, so I'm going to be able to experience that same type of event.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah, and then like we state that pretty clear on our website. On ThermoWorks website, it shows in those perfect conditions we can get up to 21 or 2,132 feet. But in neighborhoods, we're getting about 659. So that's cut in half, more
Yep.
than half.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As soon as you put in those other radio frequencies too. And so people got to understand that. And as soon as it comes out, as soon as people get their hands on it, well, we're not getting the distance that they said we were. Of course you're not. Tesla's saying that you can drive across the country without having to stop more than 2 or 3 times bullshit.
I mean,
Hit
I
the
think
mountains of Utah.
exactly what
it's
Greg
a
said,
lot.
right?
After you have the store, I mean, consumers are coming in. I assume there's a percentage of people that come back and go, I'm wildly disappointed, or this didn't meet my expectations because it says XYZ on the box. And now you have to reset the expectation for them to know what they should be expecting going forward.
Right.
Yeah, that's the least amount of fun we have in the stores when
course.
people are disappointed with a product that they just spent $100 to $300 for a block, and like they said, it's the connectivity issues. It's something that you deal with on a regular basis with consumers, and like best case scenario, this is the parameters that you're going to get. But worst case scenario, if you do these things, because a lot of people they were taking their probe out and putting it back in the drawer and not putting it out by the pit. So it's like you at least need to follow the directions, and hopefully you get a little bit better results from that. So.
Well, just so
Yeah.
you know, that's huge, Jesse, because Amanda, she writes the instructions to these and she gets so pissed off when people don't just read the instructions. She spends so much time doing this and she's like, just read the instructions. All your questions will be answered.
We're men. Most men, I know Christie probably reads everything because she's so detailed, but we're men. We'd pull it out of the box. We can figure it out.
Honestly, when I test grills for company, though, I'm testing a grill right now, and I'm testing it without reading the instructions for that exact reason. Because I want what is a real consumer going to do? And I tell the brands, and they're like, "It's in the instructions." And I'm like, "Yeah, but would a person know how to use this grill without reading the instructions?" So.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like, I don't read most stuff. It's just facts.
We're boys.
Light
Right.
fire, add meat.
What
It'll
about
be
you?
interesting though with the wireless. I think that there's such a sour taste in so many people's mouths for maybe a decade now over the wireless thermometer. I think it's going to take some time for either the Fireboard or the RFX to get into people's hands, and for people to actually talk about, just to their friends, their family, social media, about those success stories about how it does work. And then I think it'll start to really pick up from there.
Right. What do you think about that, Greg? Do you think it's going to be one of those things that people are going to promote, or are they going to give them as gifts? Or do you think this is just more of, I want this for me?
I think it's just next generation technology. I think if somebody is over the moon happy about it, you're never going to hear about it. They're going to be happy that they have it and it's working at home. And if somebody comes over for dinner and that guy or gal is also into live fire cooking, then you might give the word of mouth like Christie was talking. But nobody's going to get on their social media account unless they're getting paid and go, oh, this XYZ product is the best and you need to have it. It's just, this is where we're advancing as an industry. So
Right.
Perfect influencer, Greg.
I'll start all videos by going, hey guys, I just want to tell you.
I kind of agree with Greg with the wireless technology on that, but there are some things that do, word of mouth. The Thermopen, that we hear comments time after time. Hey, my buddy told me about this thermopan. Hey, my neighbor, she's a baker, and she told me the reason why her bread is so good is because of the thermopan.
Let me give you
But
my
I think,
theory. Can I?
please,
I think, remember 10 or 12, 13 years ago, however long it was, it's always 2 to 3 years for me because I'm an idiot. Barbecue was on television a lot. So everybody wanted to use what everybody on TV was using, and they were all using thermopans. So
Mhm.
I'm not discounting how great the ThermoWorks product is or the ThermoWorks products are, but you saw the best people at the time using products, and one of them was a thermopan. So I think there was a movement of thermopen specifically because everybody's got to know specifically what everybody's using, not just kind of generally, but they want to know. So I think that moment in barbecue history changed a lot for a lot of companies, and a lot of people were able to benefit name brand wise from that too. And I think the thermopen specifically was one. I know a lot of people that have thermopen, they didn't even know ThermoWorks made other products.
it's true. I agree with you
Dialed
100%
in.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get customers talking about that all the time. Like, I didn't even know you guys made other products. I ordered a thermopan. I got a box. There's a pamphlet in there, and they were like, "Wow, there's a lot more products in that ThermoWorks deals with than just the thermopan." I agree with you 100% on that, Greg, for sure.
Hey, circling back to the wireless technology, the Fireboard probably does this too, but you mentioned baking, and that's one thing that's really cool about wireless thermometers too, is at least with the RFX, you could put it in an instant pot, you can put it in a deep fryer, you can put it in your oven. So there's definitely more
Put it in a sous
applications as a
vide.
in the sous vide,
Yeah.
which is great for SDA steak cooks also who like to do that sous vide first. So definitely more applications than just barbecue.
Right, and then let's just talk about the immersion lines. All these people are asking, why do I have to put it to a certain point? How come I have to bury it so deep into the meat? The easy answer is the meat is your insulator, right? You're not going to be cooking your meat to 200 and 50 degrees, 300 degrees. If you're cooking your meat that far, you're done. So what's the point of even cooking at that point? But the meat is the insulator, and every single one of these companies have components in their batteries, circuit boards, and solder. We know solder has a very low melting point. If that's exposed, something's going to come undone, and then your unit's not going to work. So that's why every single one of these companies have an immersion line. And people don't get that. Are you picking up on that, Greg? That people are like, they always complain you have to put it this far, or it doesn't work with this cut of meat. Yeah, it's not going to work with your drumstick because you're not going to get enough immersion. It's not going to work on a chicken wing because you're not going to hit the immersion line.
I think I'm benefiting from this because everybody I talk to knows that inherently, they're cookers already. So
True.
There's never been any why does it have to go this deep? Like people I'm talking to just know that that's part of the deal. Their bigger concern is how big of a hole is it leaving in the meat that I'm cooking versus how far do I need to bury it.
Right. What about you, Jesse, on the consumer side? Are people asking that question often for you at the barbecue store? Or?
No, that's not something that gets brought up very often because most people are using the wireless products on the bigger cuts of meat. They're trying to control the temperature and knowing what's going on with their bigger cuts. The smaller ones, not so much. So,
Right. And I think this is where the wire technology. So Travis, circling back, you don't need to get rid of all your wireless or your wired systems. That can circle back to your thinner cuts as well too. So if you're wanting to
and
manage
the
your
fact that we haven't touched on the fact that it can control your fan systems too. If you're running a drum that you have a fan on, you have a gravity fed smoker that you're running a fan. This can run your fans as well. It's just so you don't have to run, like you said, with the signals. Running the signals with 4 wires plus the wire, plus your wire for your ambient temperature. It just kind of cuts down on that. So,
right. Yeah, the billow system works great. I'm not sure if Fireboard has a fan assisted system.
Yep.
They do.
Fireboard 2, you can plug in. They have a whole fan accessory thing that you can buy. Here's the insider's tip. At least for the Fireboard, I can't speak on anything else. So I'll run the blower on the Primo when I fire it up sometimes. and I learned from some other guy in Canada, you have to go into the settings. I was overshooting. It became very frustrating. I'm emailing Ted going, what the fuck? I can't dial this thing in. You said it was easy, and I'm an idiot. So this other guy from Canada who does a lot of these reviews said, go into the advanced settings and then throttle back the fan speed to like 20% tops, and then go ahead and set your temperature. So this thing now can't spool up to full revolution and overshoot you. It's a little bit more of a gradual raise in temperature. So, know that going in if you use it this way, which I immediately recommend you should start doing, especially you're having the same issues that I was having. And then once you get the temperature, then it's got no problem just kind of, spooling, keeping it where you want, but you're not overshooting by 20, 30 degrees. So go into the settings and then cap your max fan speed at like 20%.
Yeah. That's a great tip for you fireboard users. ThermalWorks, it throttles back at 40 degrees off and then will pulsate. There's no advanced setting on the fan. That's a cool feature though for the fireboard to be able to adjust your fan.
And you just have to make sure you remove the yellow silicone blocking the fan.
User error. Jesse forgot to remove the air intake cap.
Speaking about reading directions.
Instructions, yeah. But I want to touch on, you mentioned the thickness. I will say that early on when I was doing the SCA stuff, I was worried about that thickness because they cut the steak in half and you see the big hole in it. I don't really think judges care anymore. I mean, I tried using the needle, which is fine, which is a really thin ThermalWorks wired probe. I think judges just know and just expect it now. So, but with KCBS, I will say when I insert a thermometer into my money muscle, I will insert it at a little bit lower point so that I can hide that hole in the shingles when I'm putting it into the box, and then use one in the front of the box that doesn't have a hole into it. But again, I think it's kind of just an expectation now. Like, oh, this cook cared about temperature and they used a probe. I don't think that's, so the ThermalWorks is, like I said, a little bit smaller than the other, but it's going to be thick enough to hold all those components. So it's not super thin.
Right. And Christie, I think I agree with you 100%. People don't care about the hole anymore. Maybe, I think reason why people care about it on KCBS is because you give that visual score, what it looks like, right? Steak cook-offs, they're not even looking at the center cut when they're judging. They're looking at the lines and checking color. And then they might find that hole when they're looking for doneness, but I don't think it matters. But KCBS, I think it still is a thing. Because
that's why I would hide
very
it in
visual.
KCBS.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But then with the fan system, let's be honest. There's probably only less than 1% of people who use that Billows or Fireboard's fan assisted system, because we know the market is in the pellet grill world. I can walk down any neighborhood with that has an HOA and I can find a Traeger on every single person's back porch. If it's not a Traeger, it's a Blackstone. it's just that way. So
probably both now.
Yeah,
probably. Yeah,
most people are having both.
Yeah.
And in the comp world, there's so many people using drums, and neither Gateway or Hunsaker. I even bought a Billow for my Hunsaker, and I've never needed to use it because it just holds down.
Right. I seen an adapter for your Hunsaker for fan assisted systems. It looks pretty cool.
I have seen that too, but I've just never needed it. So I bought I thought maybe one day. I think you might have sold it to me, the Billows.
I
was in the store one day. You're a really good salesman.
Greg, you look like you have something to say on this. No,
I don't.
Right, that's crazy. But yeah, I think wireless systems are going to help the backyard people with their pellet grills. We know most pellet grills run on an algorithm. They have one probe in one spot, and it kind of calculates what that temperature is. But I think having your ambient probe and then your wireless system is going to definitely up your cooking game. I have a GMG out in the backyard. Let me tell you guys, though, it was a pass down. The neighbor said he didn't want it anymore because it didn't work. I went in there, connected some wires. It's the original Daniel Boone, the original one, with the little 1-inch legs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but that thing, I set it to 300 to get 275. It's just old. I don't expect it to be dialed in. So that's why having wired systems like the wired probes and then having your probe to be able to manage your meat are huge.
And almost all the manufacturers, the probes that they're using for your meat temperatures aren't the most accurate probes on the market. I mean, that's why I've always trusted ThermoWorks for their accuracy. To double check your probes from your pits as well.
Yeah. So
the biggest hurdle I see is just teaching people how to barbecue and grill, is getting them past that mindset of cooking to temperature instead of cooking to time. Like
Correct.
so many people, how many hours, how long, when, how many minutes till I flip it?
Till it's done.
Yeah. When there's advancements in thermometers, whatever the company, I'm excited because I hope that it will help lead to that change of understanding how important it is to cook to temperature versus time.
Right. And the technology is so accurate too. Well, I'll ask Greg on there on Fireboard's accuracy, but ThermoWorks accuracy, the air probe, the ambient air probes to plus or minus 1.9 degrees. And then the RFX is 0.9. So within degrees is huge. Back in the days, within 10 degrees was amazing. So, but what is Fireboard seeing on their accuracy levels as well?
I think they're right around that.
Yeah.
Tight tolerances. To me, it's very easy to check, and I would tell everybody, whether you have a Thermopen, whether you have some other type of instant read meat thermometer, every month, every 2 months, depending on how you cook, boil a pot of water, stick it in there and see what it reads. It should read 212 degrees. That's where water boils. And if it doesn't, if it's low, at least you know where that thing is reading if you can't go in and recalibrate it to get it to read correctly. Because if your thermometer is off, everything is off. It's like having the wireless system that doesn't connect. Like if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So if your temperatures are off, at least you know where it is so you can make that correction in the cook. But to answer your question, Fireboard does maintain very tight temperature reading tolerances. But I trust nothing. I'm always checking. And because I've heard horror stories of people that just rely on it because it's a good name and something has happened between one cook to the next. And now it's 20 degrees off or 30 degrees off. And that ruins everything.
Right. I'm going to counter you slightly, though, Greg. The boil test is not as accurate nationwide.
Who gives a shit? I mean, do your water if you want.
Whatever your altitude is.
Yeah, cook to your altitude. Look your altitude up. But no, it is very good. That Greg is probably much better at checking his thermometers than I am. Even though I work for a thermometer company, I check mine at the start of the barbecue season. I know it's bad, but you should be checking it probably every couple months with whatever you have, because they can fall out of tolerance, and falling out of tolerance can be related to, just a battery starting to die. Something simple where you can just replace your battery and it'll fix it. So, Chrissy, are you good at checking your thermometers? You're horrible at it.
I'm horrible. I don't know that
you're not testing your most important thing.
So I will say I do the boil water test at competitions when I'm cooking at high altitude, because I want to know, it's not to test my thermometer, it's to know what the boiling point of water is where I'm cooking, because that's going to adjust my cook time and my pull time for my brisket. I have I know how to do the ice water test. That's the test that I would usually do, but no, I'm not good at it. I need to test them all.
How about you, Jesse?
I've never tested mine. Not once.
Craig is losing his mind right now.
But I have 6 Thermopens.
Tuesday, and I'm going to yell at you on my show, all the 3 of you. It's unbelievable.
But I have 6 Thermopens, so if one seems off, I just use a different Thermopen.
That one's right.
Since we're bringing it up, since we're having a good time, let's just bring it up. Let's touch on another pet peeve of Greg's. Do you cover your grills, Christy?
Yes, I do, because it's really dusty where I live. It's undeveloped behind me, and so yes, I do.
Jesse, do you cover your grills?
I do. I have a roof over all of them.
Perfect. I do as well. So you can't roast us on that one, Greg. We all cover our grills.
Good. I mean, heaven forbid you put a $5 piece of plastic over a $1,000 piece of equipment to protect it.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny. We're gonna get roasted on Tuesday. Tuesday, we're done. We're done. Well, I don't know.
I've always ran covers on anything that's going to be exposed, though. I mean, all the pits that were on my trailers that were hard mounted, they all have covers on them. But my back patio I've got 12 feet of cover, and it's sitting right up against the building. And then obviously the pits at the stores are, they're sitting under a full drive-through coverage. So.
In full disclosure, there have been times when companies have reached out to send me a grill or a pellet cook or whatever, and they say, just leave it out because they know I'm in Cleveland and there's different kind of weather cycles and all that. And they want to know what it looks like after it's been snowed on for a year or 2 years, or how the paint reacts to being super cold to start warming up in spring again. So there have been times when somebody has told me, we're sending this to you, don't cover it. But if it's good and I get to keep it, then I immediately go to the website and buy a cover and slam a cover on it. But if somebody tells me not to, I will adhere to that.
Yeah, just to give a good solid test.
It does pain me in my heart, though.
Well, what do you think, guys? Have we covered everything on wireless systems that you think of? Have we covered that clearly?
I think charging is another thing that people have questions about, like longevity of like how long will the probe last? Are you in the middle of a cook and it runs out? And my experience with the ThermoWorks tests so far with the RFX have been fine. I know that the amount of time that the thermometer lasts will depend on how many seconds intervals that it's sending information to your phone. So if you want it like sent every 3 seconds or whatever the ranges are, that's going to run down the battery faster than if you do it every 60 seconds. I have found that like 15 seconds is okay, but when it gets closer to the end of the cook, I kind of want a little bit more to speed up those intervals. But I haven't had a problem with the battery running out on that one.
Right. Yeah, those batteries. That number I don't have at the top of my head, but I think it's around 195 recharges for a AAA battery. Maybe it might be more than that. But then the RFX can get over 3,000 full recharges before the batteries are completely toast inside that. But that's amazing. I don't know if I'll ever recharge my iPhone more than 3,000 times in the next 5 years before the next unit comes out. So if you think about it, we only have 365 days a year. So, and I'm charging my phone before I go to bed. So it's going to take a while.
I've got to address the elephant in the room, though, Anthony. This is a question for you. When are we going to get our RFXs? I've got thousands of dollars that you guys have in your bank account, and I'm not selling those. So
not my bank account. I wish you
product, Jesse. How dare they?
I know.
I wish it was in my bank account. I'll tell you that much, Jesse. But no, we're slated to start shipping next week.
Nice.
Depending on how many units we get, depending on how many we're going to get out the door, and also shipping times. We have other orders coming in, and also trying to push that out. So depending on how fast the warehouse can get products out, but we are slated to start shipping next week. And whenever you pre-order, you put yourself in the queue in that line, and we're going to ship in order that you placed your order.
And then how are they handling the restocking? Or are they? Is it continuous feed? Wow. Hey, I might as well dig into this. Let's go.
No,
if I sell out, I got to have more product.
From what I've gathered, what I've been told is that you got to put yourself back in line. You ride the roller coaster, go back to the end of the line.
Wow.
Until we get caught up. This is very anticipated. People are pre-ordering. Every company out there that does a pre-order, everybody's excited to get it, and I know next week I'm going to get hundreds of calls saying, "Hey, you placed my order. Where's my product? You're in line. We're just going to get it out." So thanks for putting me on the spot there, Jesse, but it's all good.
I had to ask. We're talking about this amazing new product, but when are we going to get it?
I'm hoping the PR department has a little bit more couth on how they tell people to get back in line.
No, get back to the back of the line.
Get back to the back line. Ride the roller coaster and get back to the end of the line until we get everybody's order shipped and we're back in stock. Then it should be just a traditional order. We'll get that ordered out the same day it's placed and normal delivery time. So there's not much more that we really need to talk to about. Thanks for bringing up the battery. Oh, what do we need to talk about? What do we need to talk about?
We got to talk to Christie about her contest and how she
selling
76 spots and
have you
2
ever heard of anybody
hours,
selling out
and
a
it's
comp
all
this fucking
paid
quick?
for.
Sorry, Jesse.
Maybe a long time ago, but not in
holy
recent memory.
shit.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
God,
76 teams and paid
Yeah,
76 teams.
79, yeah. And
79.
so
79.
we had a contest in Vegas back in the early 2010s, and I think the last one was like 2018, if I'm not mistaken. And that last one actually sold out in 4 minutes. Steve Overlay put that one in. It was on Fremont Street, which is in downtown Vegas, and so it was huge. But there were only like 25 or 30 spots for that one.
Yeah.
So when I brought this one back, I knew people would be excited about it. It's a qualifier for the Jack. There's only 2 contests in Vegas, so your odds of a draw are really good. It's Vegas, so I think that is a lot of the appeal. I originally had room for 57 spots, and we sold out in about an hour, but it was down to 44 spots because a lot of teams want to bring their trailers and bigger rigs. Bass Pro gave me more space, and then when I opened that back up, we got room for 79 teams total, and that sold out in like 4 hours. And I have at least 10 people on the wait list still. But it's I really think it's Vegas, and you're right. People, part of the rule is if you want to register, you got to pay, because if you don't pay, I'm going to somebody on the wait list. So there's a chance. We're trying to move the judges' tent indoors. We're trying to rent a space indoors. If that can happen, I'm going to have room for 4 to 8 more spots. If I get up to 85 teams, which I have enough on the wait list to get there, it will be the largest competition ever held in Nevada. So
wow.
When is it?
It's December 7th in Vegas, at the Bass Pro Shop, right off the I-15, just south of the airport.
Why?
Because we never got past 60 in Wendover, and that's with a huge prize pool too. But it's like Vegas is just so central.
That you think the draw is Vegas?
I do. Yeah, I think it's Vegas. I think it's that it's a pretty good auto qualifier, and then also that it's December, so there's no other competitions happening in Kansas and all these other places where there's snow or it's really cold. So
You're getting a lot of draw from California because they hardly have any contests anymore.
There's a huge draw from California. There's 16 states represented right now. On the team side, I already have 100 judges, and they're all CBJs, and I think like 60% of them are master CBJs. They've all taken the J Cup. We've also got teams from Canada and Mexico, and we have judges from Canada and Switzerland, actually.
Wow.
How much are you attributing the quick sellout to your social media success?
I think that has partially, but I think if somebody else threw this contest, I think it would have been successful also. But I'll take some credit.
You're being modest.
Is that really the case? I mean, there's got to be teams that also thought about maybe throwing a contest at some point. I mean, obviously they haven't done it, but I mean that.
Right. There's been a lot of teams who've talked about doing it in Vegas. But throwing a contest is a lot of work, as Jesse knows. I mean, he's thrown several. And it's a lot of money to, figure out the profit and loss of it all.
How are you doing that?
Sponsors. So Jack Daniels is a sponsor. I've got Cowboy Charcoal as a sponsor. I go big. Blues Hog is a sponsor. So yeah, I'm bringing in sponsors. The location, Bass Pro didn't charge me for that.
What's the prize purse?
Right now we're up to 12,000, and if I get more sponsors, that money's going to the prize purse.
What does Grand Champion win?
Grand Champion wins $1,600. And
let me tell you something. This is the problem with competition barbecue. I'm not here to shit on Christie. I mean that event that he's putting on and the fact that it's sold out is great. There's no money in it, so people need to realize that this is a hobby, and hobbies you spend money on, you don't get rich on. There's very few in the competition world over the life of me covering the show that even get to break even, let alone get into the black. It's usually a red proposition. So. I mean, the fact that she's got this many big name sponsors and first place is paying out $1,600, depending on where they're coming from after you back out expenses, maybe you're still at a little bit of a loss. So for the folks that are looking to get long way to go to say, if you're looking to get into competition barbecue, make sure that your expectations are tempered, that you just like cooking and camaraderie and you want to be around a big star like Christie Vanover, or maybe the Anthony Lujan goes around, or Jesse takes a shot at it, and you can kind of hobnob with them because they're accessible. But it's not a get-rich-quick scheme by any stretch, which is why I've never competed.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. First place categories, I think the max you can get is 900. My prize purse is 400 for like first place chicken, but Blues Hog is agreeing to add $500 on top of that if you use their product when you compete, and then you'll get 900 for first place. So if you're GC, then we're paying down to 10 places in every category. So you can definitely leave with a little bit more than 1,600, but you're right. When you pay for your hotel, your travel, your gas, all that stuff.
Yeah,
and we've got, I think, 4 or 5 world champions competing, multiple people who've been on multiple, Brad, Tim, oh gosh, my brain, Chris Schaefer, there's more. Bill is coming. Who I
Bill
can't remember off the
Gillespie?
top of my head. No, Gillespie was going to come. Chicken Fried is coming.
Holy moly. That would be
Yeah.
like for Bill Gillespie to come over.
He had originally registered, but he ended up having to cancel because just get people trying to find drums to cook out here too. Smitty's coming, Big Papa's coming, a bunch of our West Coast teams. Lots of people who've been on TV shows,
Big Papa's going to be there?
Yeah. Hopefully. I mean, yes, he's registered.
Okay.
James will be there.
He and I talked.
James will be there.
James will be there.
It's funny. Andy Allen won half of the contest in Wendover. So when he'd win Wendover, he'd be leaving home. He'd be headed home with $10,000, $12,000, $14,000 of that prize purse. So those big contests are I think a thing of the past.
Yeah.
With the big dollars.
Hey, well, Travis Bates just commented on Facebook that they're going to take that winning and they're going to triple it on the craps table.
There you go.
There you go.
That's how you make it.
There's a chance.
Well, Greg said it's a hobby. You don't expect to win money. I've never went and bought a set of golf clubs, hit a golf course, and expected any return. Never.
Yeah. Honestly, even as an organizer at this point, it's a hobby for me too, because I don't even know if I'm going to be able to pay myself, and I'm putting in hours upon hours just to make it happen, because
hundreds and hundreds of hours.
Yes. So right now my priority is the teams and the prize purse, and if there happens to be a little cash to throw my way, great. But at this point, I just want this to happen so bad.
There's a guy in Vegas. His last name ends in Win. Just ask him to kick in.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, man, this has been great,
excited
guys. This has been really great. I really appreciate you coming on here. Greg, I know you have a busy schedule, and thanks for taking time to do that. Same as you, Christie. But yeah, let's
and Christie just released her products again, so she's gonna have her she's not going through, because I'm sorry, but fair is horrible, Christie. Horrible.
Okay.
So to reorder your products, but I'm glad you're going out on your own and having Susie help with your fulfillment. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, should be about a month.
Patio Provisions.
I am. Yeah. I'm going to be one of their first.
Helping gals, love it.
I know. So they should be out in hopefully a month or so. The Jack is awesome. They've offered to sell them during the barbecue competition at their hardware store. I'm also releasing a cookbook that should be coming out around the same time. So yeah, just hustling.
Well,
thank you,
Christie.
Jesse.
Yeah, Christie, we'll get you here on the show for the tasting, and we'll see what we got.
Yeah.
We'll get put all of our palettes on there and just give you the live feedback.
Love it.
But yep, let's just run through it one more time. Greg, where can people find you?
At the BBQ Central Show is the handle for all social medias, and then live every Tuesday night, 9 to 11 on Facebook, Twitter, and the other one, YouTube. Yeah, and then so those the first two are /BBQ Central Show, and then YouTube is at BBQ Central Show, unlike all the other social media handles. So find me there.
And Christie.
Yeah, you can find me at girlscangrill.com. That's where I have all my recipes and barbecue tips, all the socials at Girls Can Grill. And then my podcast drops every Thursday morning. It's the Barbecue Tips Podcast. This week, I just talked about the Jack, talking about the sauce ancillary category. And this coming week, I'm going to be talking about the Cook's Choice category. So if you're cooking in the Jack, you're going to want to listen to that to get my tips as both a cook and a judge for the Jack.
Perfect. All righty. Thanks, you guys. Go and enjoy your rest of your Sunday afternoon or mornings. And we'll catch you guys on the flip side.
Go Browns.
Awesome.